Okay, let's get cracking. So very good morning, everybody. My name's Jamie Pease. I'm the chair of the security stream here for the GSE virtual conference, and gives me great pleasure to welcome our first presenter of the day, Henry. So he'll introduce himself in a moment. As you heard, no, he's not going to. Not going to be cooperative. So this is session 7A. So as you heard Mark say in his kickoff, don't forget to leave us feedback. What we're going to do, so Henry's going to show up a slide towards the end of his session with the link to the feedback, but we'll put a link in the chat just to so that if you could please complete that, we'd be very, very grateful. Just a very quick bit of housekeeping. So Henry is happy to take questions and would prefer to take questions throughout his session. So please do drop them into the chat. So that's at the bottom of your screen. You can pop them in there, and he'll try and get through as many of those as possible. And also you can talk to other people in the session as well. So yes, so Henry was scheduled to come and present to us this session at the conference, the in-person conference back in November of last year. But unfortunately, you got COVID, didn't you, Henry? But we weren't going to let him off, of course. So we asked him to come and present. So Henry's been on a few of our GSE sessions, and I think you've got maybe some other sessions in other tracks. Have you this week or not? I can't remember.
Yes, there's one tomorrow, which is going to be a very last-minute quickie being pushed in the agenda. So check the agenda. Yes. But there's going to be another cool one on the Advent of Code competition Herb and me ran last pre-Christmas period. That's going to be
sounds really interesting. Yes, and we like last minute as well. So yes, so no pressure, Henry. You are our first presenter on air with us today. So it's over to you, sir. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me first try and get the screen up again, and that hopefully works. Let me know if you see it, then we can give it a go.
Yep, it's all good.
Well, yeah, welcome to Snake Security and Saving Time. A tempting enough title to get this many people in, so thank you very much. GSE provides us with lovely slides, so of course I've used those. The instruction says to keep slides 1 to 7, which I did. So this is the second one, the third one, the fourth one, the fifth one, the sixth one, the seventh one. You're going to see this one at the end. That's the feedback link Jamie was talking about. So that's all of them, and it's time for us to get started. Just a little heads up. Jamie already mentioned it, but you could still be in the wrong session. Now would be the perfect time to quickly go to the session you really wanted to join, but feel free to stick around for the ride. It's going to be pretty good, I think. There's a lot of awesome sessions in this whole security track Jamie is hosting. You see the titles down there, and that's only just day one. There's another 2 days of all this coolness. So yeah, of course I'm a bit nervous kicking off the security track again, just like last year. Thanks again, Jamie. And last year, some of you might have joined that session. We did a little experimental Jeopardy security game where in one of the question answer slides, I mentioned some Python stuff I was messing around with. And well, since then I quote unquote did a thing. I've written up a nice little framework to help you all do your RACF reports. In today's session, I'm going to try and, well, walk you towards how that happened, what it does, and how you can use it. And like Jamie said, please fire your questions as we go along, because otherwise I just keep flicking slides back and forward and maybe lose the flow of your questions. So don't hesitate to either unmute yourself, shout out, or type it in the chat box. And if I'm missing the chat box, I think Jamie will shout out. So our little agenda for today is, of course, it's all about RACF reports. Why do we need them? How I used to be creating them. I'm going to share a bit of my frustration on what I didn't like. Tell you a bit about the Python Pandas framework, how that helps us create RACF reports, and then because I've pre-recorded all the demos, they will definitely work. So that's going to be good. I'm going to show you how to install and use it, and then maybe we have some time for questions and answers at the end as well. Of course, it was last minute because I did have really cool slides for the November in-person event. Unfortunately, I got hit by the Rona, and I kind of lost my slides. So I must admit, I had ChatGPT help me out write these slides. So I thought, well, we better start with why do we need RACF reports? I'm not going to read out the whole ChatGPT sentence, but for one, it was very amazing to see it, her, him, whatever, give us the answers. But I think we all know why we need them, right? We need to make sure that our setup is correct. We need to please our auditors and our access managers to show them overviews of how the security in our system is configured. So we do need them. It's like this necessary evil, if you wish, that we need. Then just to share my own amazement with ChatGPT, it will even show you how RACF reports look like if you run them. It'll even give you a nice little step-by-step on how to get those Carla reports or standard RACF reports into the file formats that our auditors love, Excel sheets. So yeah, pro tip for today is already, if you're stuck, try ChatGPT instead of Google for a change. It's really amazing. Here's a little picture from a very old slide deck I found from an IBM presentation. You can see by the year, it's well, nearly 20 years ago, 15. But this is what I would get, right, from running reports, and then you select that text and you paste it into Excel, and that gets me very frustrated, right? It doesn't work. It's not repeatable. I spend too much time doing things I don't like, creating Excel sheets where I really just want my information to land at the right spot, so it's actionable information. And then we change something, I have to deliver the same report again, and all the pain starts over. So that wasn't really good. So the solution was, of course, that starter little Python I showed you previous year. I kept working on that, and finally I got it working in a format that pleased me. I could get a full Excel report of the entire RACF security matrix. And on the small little ZPDT RACF system I have there, I had a cool Excel sheet in under 5 minutes. So I was very pleased. I thought this is going to please the colleagues as well. I brought that code to work, had a bit of talk with our access managers to see if we could run that, and we did. And it took about 16 hours to generate an Excel file based on the real production unload. So that was kind of not good. 16 hours is way too long, and of course my code was suboptimal. And this is where our hero Pandas comes in. We had a guy, we still have the guy luckily in our team. I mentioned him at the bottom. Martin, thanks again. He's fresh out of school, a young guy, and he goes, well, why are you parsing all that stuff on your own dictionaries and making it so hard on yourself? Have you ever seen the Pandas framework? And of course I didn't. So I started researching that. And of course you need to ask ChatGPT on what Pandas is. And I thought maybe a lot of us mainframers here never heard of the Pandas framework. So here's the explanation ChatGPT gives us. It's the major points here are it supports reading and writing into various sources, right? Comma-separated files, Excel files. You can even export it as SQL insert statements, so you can run your data through a database afterwards. And it's a really convenient and easy query environment for data, whatever data you put in there. And I thought, well, maybe we need a bit more explanation. Let's explain it to ourselves like we're 5-year-olds. And it just tells us it's this big box of our toys that it gives us opportunity to easily take it out, put it back and play with it. So that's basically what Panda does. now you're probably still having a lot of questions. So I've prepped a little example usage of pandas. Again, this has nothing to do with the RACF stuff yet, but just shows you what it does, and realize that this is used, I would say, under the covers in the framework that I'm explaining here today. So at the top, I don't know if you guys know this is Jupyter Notebook. It's like an interactive Python development environment, maybe, but you can write blocks of code, run them, get the output, run the other bit of code, make changes. It's a nice interactive way of doing Python instead of Python -i on the command line. So at the top, I've created all the sessions for today in the security track in what they call Python dictionaries. So all the sessions are in a list, and then the speakers are in a list, of course, in the same order as the sessions, the titles and the start time. And then we're just going to see what that does for us. So I hope this will play. Yeah, here's those, all those little blocks you can separately run. So when we run the first bit, nothing happens. The second bit shows us, the layout of our data structure, and it shows you precisely what we've imported into it. And we can easily print that content. It already shows you a nice little table, and then this is sort of the preview on what it does for you. You can filter, select, join. You can do transformations. And here I'm just selecting all sessions where the word RACF is in the title. And then at the bottom, we filter that even more to not show us the full thing, but just shows us the session, the speaker, and the start time. I hope we're still all on the same page, because it's probably going to go a little bit faster right now. Safe to say that getting rid of my own crappy code and replacing it with pandas functionality to parse and work with the RACF data from that humongous production unload. At the right, you see the function that really saved my life. It's a single call, and the data is exported as an Excel sheet. I hope this plays. And instead of those 16 hours, it ran well under 5 minutes. My quick math told me that's 99% faster. So again, a big shout out to Martin for pushing me to pandas, and it really works like a charm now. Now I want to show you how you can work with real RACF data. For those of you that follow me on Twitter, I did ask pre-November and again pre this session, if there's anybody who would like their production or test RACF databases used in these live demos to send them out. Obviously no one did, so you all scored points there, because I mean, don't drop your RACF unloads with me. So I had to write up a little fake unload creator that uses a lot of nice frameworks in Python as well to generate fake names, fake company names. I'll just show you how it runs here, and that will that will create for us a fake IRR DB00 unload. We can pick how many groups we want, how many users, and the program kind of adds users to random groups, creates some random data sets, creates some random data set access lists, and so we have a file to work with and show you guys without showing actual real data. I'm just opening it here in Notebook. The file is demo IRR-DBU, and I mean, the people who work with these unloads files probably recognize the unload here. It's very long lines of text with a fixed layout. You can see all the fake generated names there. Again, any resemblance of real people is purely coincidental. This is all randomly created. So up to using our cool framework. Again, I'll quickly go through the little blobs of text. I've commented everything so you can see in the slides once you download them. I will try and get those videos separately with the slides, but I'm not quite sure how to make that available for you guys. But again, you can see the full recording afterwards. At the top, we're just importing our framework. It's called PyRACF. We're going to start up the framework, create an object based on that fake unload we created. We're going to parse it. The parsing is done in a background thread, so your Python code can continue doing other things until it's done, because it still takes, you know, a couple of minutes for large files to totally parse everything. And then we're doing some queries on that RACF database. Again, this is the fake RACF database we've created in the previous step. So this first block of code, of course, will be done very quickly because it basically doesn't do anything. It just initializes stuff, importing our database, and we're running it and immediately showing the status. Of course, nothing has been parsed yet in those split seconds. And then just afterwards, we can see that it's ready, that we've parsed, well, nearly 4,000 lines. Let's show our users. And you get your full view of all your users in the system. And all the column names are, of course, the official IBM label names you get from the documentation. You can see all your special users as like a built-in function to the framework. And this is just showing pandas tricks. You can group the users, and then you can, or grouping all the users by owner ID. You get all the owner IDs. We can select one owner ID and see all the users who are owned by ROD. Again, that's all random. That's only one user in this case. All our data set definitions. So here's all the data sets that have been generated in that fake generator. The access list, who has what level to what data set. And then over here, we're gonna see what this user we've selected is allowed to do. So you see all the data sets that user has access to, and what level of access it has. And from an audit point of view, it might be interesting to see where alter is allowed. That's only 3, and they're all that person's own thing. And here we're going to do a check to see if there's a user who has access to something that is not a data set with his or her user ID as a high-level qualifier. And it just prints them out, and it shows you what user has access to what data set outside of its scope. Again, this is just a fictional example. Just checking here. I hope we're all cool and on the same page still. So then we'll continue. A little example. I had lots of fun writing this up. Again, there's actually some people who have used it already, but I've taken that PyRACF framework and just made a little show and tell of what you could do. It's going to be a quite long recorded demo, I think, so sit back and enjoy the show. I think this URL should be accessible for you guys now, but please wait till after the sessions, obviously. I'm just going to show you around what it does. Of course, this is all a bit meant as a funny thing. But basically, you create your unload, push it here, and you get your reports. So it just needs an email address and an unload. If you're not sure how to make an unload, it will, yeah, it's there. It will show you how to do that. But of course, we all know how to unload our database and convert it to ASCII. And again, there's some warnings. I mean, don't be sending your production data here. I think people wouldn't like it. Here's like a temporary email storage. Right? It's just a fake temporary email address we're going to use for our test. We're going to select one of these unloads. And done, right? So the unload has been sent. I'm going to check if we get some emails on our disposable email tool. It's refreshing. Of course, this is a tiny a tiny database, so it's quickly parsed and ran. So the first one just says, well, we've received it and we're processing. And then the second one tells you it has been done. It gives you, let's see, yeah. It gives you a little download link to get your Excel reports, and it gives you an attachment with a generated PowerPoint that will sort of give you an overview of your RACF as well. Again, all example reports and things, but just to show what you could do. So we get the one code in, get an Excel sheet. You can see by the numbers, I was trying this a couple of times to record the perfect demo for you guys. Here's that other code, download that too. And now we've got our stuff, right? The first Excel sheet you download from that report download is just the warnings that I've programmed into that tool. Again, based on the PyRACF framework and you know, your own rules and setups. It tells us here we've got a couple of data sets that are universal access read. I don't think that's all too well. And it shows us user IDs and or groups that share the exact same permissions. That might be reason for, you know, for looking into. Again, it might be correct, and this is just an example. So that's the first sheet with, well, the warning sheet. You can see two tabs. You see the little email address we used is pushed into that Excel sheet just to know that we're actually using that demo activity. And it creates the other Excel sheet, again, for very large systems. You might break Excel when running this, because sometimes, you know, there's just too many authorization IDs or too many profiles where Excel will just go, well, sorry, that's too big for me. Of course, then you need to, you know, make your own selections. But this is using the framework's default function of generate me an XLS based on my own load. It gives you a nice little tab. I think that's called a tab in Excel for every class that has profiles. It gives you a row for every profile in that class. It gives you a column for every authorization ID and some nice color-coded one-letter access levels. So, of course, we can all imagine read for read, R for read, A for alter, C for control, U for update, E for execute, and probably there's one more I'm forgetting. But I hope you get the gist of it. And even on my small little ZPDT system, it gives some very satisfying images. The left one is data set profile access per auth ID, and you can see it's nicely, you know, IBM did a good job setting that up. There's no cross authorizations where one user has access to another user's stuff, so you get this nice little diagonal line. The right one is the facility class. Of course, that's very small because there's a lot more profiles there. But you kind of get the gist of what you can do with this, I hope. And then there was a PowerPoint generated as well. The cool thing is I could just lift that PowerPoint and stick it in this presentation. So this is that PowerPoint embedded here. This is the title slide. Again, you see who it's been generated for, that fake temp email address. You get a nice little overview of your RACF database and how many records the tool has parsed for you, how many users and groups have the same permits, your specials. Well, you can all read. It kind of just gives you a nice little overview. Some graphs are generated. What's the average size of our group? What's the max size? You know, the group with the most members, the group with the least members, 0, which I think is weird. And actually there's like 20 odd groups that are totally empty. Those might be a reason to, you know, start cleaning up those groups because you probably don't need them. Yeah. Just for grins, some other overviews, the top 25 largest groups. Obviously, SysOne is the biggest on the ZPDT. Users that have been logged in the least recent. The top 3 users are, of course, the funky ones in the unload that don't have any data to it, but I mean, don't delete those from your system. You really need them. Yeah, just shows you when they last logged on and at what time. And then we can swip that query around and show the most recent ones when those were logged on. Of course, that goes, I think, top to bottom. We can do a little report on our special users, and anything that you can think of, you could automate to have an automated report. So then you're probably all wondering, how do I install this? And maybe some of you aren't all that accustomed to running things with Python. There's no setup wizard for it, right? So you have to manually install that. Basically, those 4 steps at the left is what you do. But to make life easier for you, I've got another recorded demo with a little clipboard for copy and pasting on your own systems. I'm just going to show you how it's done. So we're going to make like a temporary folder here. We're going to traverse into that folder, and then we're going to create a Python virtual environment. It's kind of like a container, I think, is the cool word these days. But it just makes sure that you're running with isolated frameworks only for you, and you don't have to install the frameworks on a system level. Then we activate that virtual environment. We're going to install PyRAC-F. Of course, you need internet access for this, or a local repository where you can stick that installer in. It's just downloading all the stuff and all the requirements. You see pandas being downloaded, the Excel writer, the PyRAC-F framework, and some other things it needs. NumPy is something for mathy things. I don't even know what 6 does, but I think it's better than 5. And now it's installed, right? So now you can use that framework. So just to show you how you could do that, again, at the right, you can copy paste and do that for yourselves if you want to play with it. Of course, you need an unload as well. So I'm going to start by copying in that unload again from all the RACF unloads I have. And then I keep typing ZD instead of ZPDT because in my brain it's still called ZD&T. Just a little show of that unload file again. And then we're going to go into interactive mode. We're going to import the framework again. We're going to tell it where our unload resides. We're going to parse it. This is done in the background, but of course it's so small, it's immediately done. And then we can just get our users from the system. We get our special, but the function is called specials. You get all your special users. You can even detect all orphan profiles. This is not as nice as I want it to be yet, but it shows nothing, so that's good. And it saves the Excel sheet. And then you can see that IRR DBU00 has been created based on that unload. And again, that's the same Excel sheet as we've shown earlier that the email service sent us. Of course, you can do a lot of advanced usage. You can write like proper Python scripts. You don't have to run in the background. I imagined a fake use case where you have a very large system and you've got some group you need to get rid of, but you need to move all those members to another group. Again, very fictional. So you stick that in a Python script using the framework. It's going to parse our input, and we're going to say, well, I like everybody from SYS1 to be moved to GSE UK. And then it says, well, that's not there. So you need to do this to make that work. Oh, sorry. I pressed the wrong button. You get to see it again. But it generates your JCL, it generates the RACF commands to actually perform that action. And then all that's left is you need to, well, copy paste that into a JCL or write some further automation to use Zoe and fire that up to your system, and it's done. Just to show it with a bigger group, probably, or another group. Move it to the admin group, and then you can see, yeah, now it will stop, so we get to look at this for a while. But it creates your step. It creates the sys-ts-in commands, creates the new group, and connects all the users that are in sys1 to this new group. For me at work, this is a real time saver. So is there a manual? Well, on the Python package indexer or on my GitHub, there's a little README file with some documentation. Again, being the nerd I am, once it works, I'm kind of not all that fussed on writing all the documentation, but we're getting there. All the functions are there on sort of how you call them, what it does for you. If we want to dive into the code a little bit, this is the heart of the thing, basically what I've shown in that Jeopardy session last year. This is a JSON file, think of it as copybook of the entire unload format, right? So like the record description, what field is on what position, what does it mean, what is it called? And that's very humongous. Obviously, I'm too lazy to be typing that all manually. So I created buggy code, again, very buggy, but you won't need it, so that's good. That will go to the IBM Knowledge Center as, you know, like a headless browser. It will get all the pages from the IBM Knowledge Center, read those pages, parse those pages, and generate the JSON to use in the framework. Hoping there's some IBMers in the session here. This is kind of what it does. Of course, it's part of a big setup because the Knowledge Center isn't that easily scraped anymore these days. IBM did a good job protecting that from information stealers like ChatGPT probably. But this is basically what it does. I first run a little thing that well, sort of scrapes the website in a nasty way, and then I'm just parsing the HTML output to generate that JSON code, and that's done record type per record type. So it was still quite tedious. It might be cool if IBM would not just give us the record descriptions, but based from their copybooks, maybe generate out to JSON as well. So it's easier for people to do stuff with the unload in a more modern way. This is probably all too small, but again, just to mention the PyRAC-F framework parses in the background. It runs as separate threads, so you can, you know, if you're running programs that use it, you can parse your RAC-F database and then start, I don't know, getting user input or getting data from elsewhere, and then once it's done, you can use it. So basically, that's what it does. You use the status function to see if it's done. That status function will also show you like how many records it's read, how many records it has parsed, because there's a difference. You can see that the parse function at the top has a records type argument. I'm in the process of changing that. As you can see, there's one which is a word and the rest is numbers. This is mainly for my own laziness. I keep forgetting if the group records are 100 and the user records are 200. So I'm making like these placeholders, but you can, if you only want to report on users, you can just parse the user records and not the rest. And then the parsing is faster. You can imagine that I think it's the 205, like the connect data, if you have universal groups, and I mean, in larger systems, all the connects are, I mean, that's explosively large. If you don't need them, don't parse them because there's so many of them. And it just, again, saves you time. Here's kind of the gist on how PyRAC-F uses that JSON I created to generate the models while parsing. So it finds the type of record in that JSON file, and then it knows all the offsets, and then we're looping across the offsets and creating a proper Python dictionary to then stick into a pandas data frame. and then you're done, right? The cool thing is, if IBM pops up with new records, I just push a new record type in that JSON file, push another if then else in the Python parser, and we can parse that new record too. Here you see some of the embedded functions that we're using, and I've shown you in the demo. So, remember we did r.users that runs this. Of course, that needs to check if the system's done parsing, or you get a nice little exception. And then I figured out I was doing a lot of r.users filter this user. I mean, that was tedious work. So I put in the function user, where you can give it an argument of user ID, and it saves you some coding steps. Detecting orphans was a really nice thing. I did find a lot of orphans in the initial ZPDT distribution. IBM has fixed that since then, obviously, because I've tweeted with them to go and fix that. But it just, it goes through all the dataset access definitions, it checks all the auth IDs, and then it sees if that auth ID is a user or a group. And if it isn't, well, then it must be an orphan. Then one of my hardships, because when I started with that Pandas, and like I said a few slides back, it's very easy to create that Excel sheet with the toExcel function. That was only partially true, because that creates an Excel sheet, but then it's just the data. So you get the full access levels, and the columns aren't rotated to show it portrait mode. There's no color coding. The columns aren't wide enough. So there's a lot of boilerplating in the code there to actually make that Excel sheet look quote unquote nice. So it's a bit more than just calling that function. And again, this is just a subset of that toExcel function in the framework, but it just kind of shows you how that's done. We're doing really good on time. Open issues, of course, I'm not done. One of the big things I try to fix is to get Pandas running on ZOS with the IBM Python, so that we can run all this automation on the ZOS platform. It also saves us from bringing that unload to another platform, which really isn't the most optimal way. There's a nice cool manual by Steve Pittman, 2-3 years old. I do believe I've played with that once, and I don't remember it not working, but I've tried it now and I can't get it to run. So that's something that's still to do. I really want to make it pluggable, so you can plug in your own rule set, and then the framework can just report on exceptions to your rules. That does take a lot of work, because everybody has their own naming conventions, their own things. So that's something I'm thinking about. Again, third bullet, I was right on the 205. That's good. Parsing the connect data is very heavy. It's really heavy, and especially if you're running it on a smaller machine, the memory consumption by Pandas is then humongous. So I'm still trying to work on increasing the performance there. Good thing is I've put everything on GitHub. I don't even think I have a license file there, but I would say it's copy left or whatever. If you want to join the fun, you can copy it and do whatever you want, or fork it, make some updates, send me a pull request, and the product will then grow, right, with everybody's additions. Again, 2 links to the repository and the PyP package. Obviously, the left is the full source to build the PyP package, but you can also just clone it and use setup.py install locally if you don't have the internet connection, and then that generates the PyP package, so everybody can do that pip install pyracf. Yeah, you can see the latest update I've done was just before or just after the not successful GSE in person. due to my my Corona activities, but I didn't dare touching it and changing it before this was over, because you know how it goes. It then will last minute break or something. But there's a couple of updates coming that will be in there shortly. If you want to contact me, here's the slide with all the details. Probably speaks for itself. I'm trying to join all the hip kids and run Mastodon instead of Twitter as well. So that link is there. If you guys would like to try Mastodon, I've created a little invite link there at the bottom with, I think, 25, which is not enough for this session. So I'll up the number, where you can create a Mastodon account on the mainframe.community environment or something, if that's called like that on Mastodon. Yeah, and that kind of brings us to the end of this talk and demo.
Thank you, Henry. So yes, I think we've got one question in the chat from Philip. I don't know if you want to have just read that one out.
Have you tried parsing the DB2 load statements that provided? Yes, I did, but the thing I was missing was the descriptions. And again, it's not in there yet. That's one of the updates that I want to bring in. Maybe in one of the recorded demos where I did the Python, whatever, like pandas.dataframe.info, it showed you that little list of all the field names. And if I configure that properly with those like informational fields, it will show that there too. So it becomes more self-documenting, and I don't need to constantly, you know, look, oh, do I need the USBD name field or the USBD programmer field? But yeah, I did look at it, and that's also a very cool thing IBM's doing. So thank you.
By the way, folks, if you want to ask your question, you can unmute your line. Or you can post the questions in the chat. So Henry, I think you might have a user for this, which is me, because for the first time in my life, in my mainframe career, I'm actually in the, I would say, fortunate position where I'm building a RACF database from scratch with no tools at the moment, which is right. Which is great. And and I've always been used to working on system with, you know, products, you know, that can look at the RACF database and so on. So I kind of feel like I'm working in the dark at the moment. Yeah. And so until the time we get those tools, and I might have a you know, a use case for using this.
Well,
so thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, you could. I mean, all the you know, the management products we are used to on, you know, our lovely teletext interface. Even the RACF panels itself, even though I'm not a big fan of those, you could kind of emulate that with this, right? So, because once you have it in your parsed in your pandas, I mean, there's nothing stopping you from making, I don't know, a web interface that you can use to query the environment. Of course, it will not automatically push changes down. You need to, you know, like I've shown in the advanced demo, generate your own RACF commands from it. But yeah, it's a cool thing, at least for me, and I'm happy to be able to share it with you guys.
Thank you. So yeah, any more questions, thoughts? Like I say, you can unmute your line, folks, if you want to ask Henry a question.
Henry, have you used ChatGPT, and do you like it?
Oh, yes, I am a very, very big fan. From a usability factor, I must say, depending on what area, it's amazing. For those of you who can find the last minute session me and Herb are doing tomorrow, I can tell you a sneaky thing. 75% of that slide deck was generated with ChatGPT.
Wow.
It's amazing. On certain things, especially our area of IT, it is troublesome. I think some things it will just spit out for you and you're like, how? Right? But sometimes it spits something out and you're thinking, ooh, that's handy, and it's not correct. Right? You can ask it to generate Python code, COBOL code, Rex code. I've even seen it do assembly code. I've done a couple of puzzles with Advent of Code last Christmas, where I just posted the question into ChatGPT and asked it, write me a little Rex program to solve this. It does, and you're like, what? But then the Rex program totally breaks, right? So my biggest side remark on ChatGPT is don't follow it blindly. But I mean, that's the same for your Google search results and whatnot. Yeah, use your own skill sets to determine if it's useful and appropriate to use that output. But I think it's amazing.
Okay, yeah, no, because somebody was telling me it's great for generating macro code for Excel, and I thought, oh, it might at least give me a start.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and me and Herb made a recording, which is probably for next year as a show and tell lightning session. But we had so much fun on it having generate text, because you can just type, I would like to thank my audience for the attention, and can you make it a bit spliffy on how, and it will just generate this blurb of text, which is, it's just amazing. It's really cool.
So next year's session will be done by ChatGPT and not you.
Yeah, I'm honestly preparing a ChatGPT only session where it's just the ChatGPT interface and it guides us through the subject. But yeah, probably next year.
I think it's going to be like, so, what does it say? Google is your friend now. ChatGPT is your friend. And I was reading an interesting article the other day actually about, the headline was, is your job at risk through ChatGPT? And actually one of the professions in there was cybersecurity professionals. And I kind of the first reaction, the first thought that came to mind was, yeah, good luck with trying to put us mainframers out of a job. But I think that probably they were coming from the likes of, because I heard this the other day, I was in a session and they asked ChatGPT to write a security policy for them, and it did it.
Yeah, it does. But it goes left to right. And I mean, the deeper you zoom in on a very narrow subject, for us, it's always IT, obviously, the wronger it gets. At least that's my experience. But if you keep it a bit broad, yeah, it saves you just a lot of time. Again, I think it's amazing. It's not something to be used copy paste but the general framework of a program, a story, a paragraph, a policy, a warning letter to management. You can type a nice little letter to management stating the need for adhering to our security policies, and it will just go, and it's there. It's really cool.
There you go, folks. You heard that first. So any of you having challenges getting budget or justification to do something, ChatGPT is your friend.
And just saw this yesterday. A Dutch guy asked ChatGPT to write a ChatGPT framework. And of course, that doesn't have all the AI background, but it's called CatGPT. And any question you ask it, it answers with meow, meow, meow. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Incredible. How things
Cool.
have moved on.
Yeah, it does. You wonder what the future brings, huh?
Indeed, indeed. So, Henry, thank you so much for your session and all the prep that the time that I know it takes a long time to prep for these sessions. So, thank you so much. For the folks listening in, so this Henry session is being recorded, and that will be made available for replay in the next few days. I can't see your slides yet on the website, Henry, but I guess you'll be uploading
I'll
those.
get in contact to you. Maybe we can do that now quickly. Can I only do PowerPoints there, or can I push out a zip file?
I'm not sure you can do a zip file. You can try it by all means, but yeah.
I want to get those videos.
Ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, I will.
But yeah, give it a go. So what I've done, so Henry's got the slide up now, folks, with the session feedback. You can use the QR code there. I've also put the link in the chat. Please be aware that the GSE website is quite slow at the moment. That we're just looking into that. That happened last time. There's a lot of people using it. So do be patient with it. The pages will load. But if you could leave your feedback, if you can't do it now, try and do it later on today. So as Henry said, there are, today for Security Stream, we've got a full set of sessions for today. So we've got at 10 o'clock scheduled for a 30-minute break. So as we're finishing a little bit earlier, we've got a little bit extra. So we'll be back in the security stream here at 10:30 with Roger from Kyndryl, who will be talking to us about the power of the RACF search command. So do join us for that if you can. If you want to go to other sessions, there's plenty of content on today. So if you go and look at the agenda, there's sessions running across all the different streams, and you will also find in some of the streams that there may also be security related sessions. So I know, for example, in the KICS stream, there is some KICS security updates over the next 3 days. We had that earlier, that was in last year at the security working group meeting. So have a good look at it. And yeah, and also we've got a Z Secure update, so talking about tools. So Hans Scan from IBM Z Secure development team will be coming to give us an update on that later. And we've also got Mark Nelson from the RACF development team. He'll be up with us this afternoon to give us a RACF update. So hope you can join us for those as well. So thank you once again, Henry, for your session, and thanks everybody for joining. I guess, Henry, you'll be back with us at the GSE in-person conference in later this year?
Definitely do hope so, indeed.
Yeah, good,
yes,
good.
I can't tell what the future brings, but if I'm not infected with the hype virus at that time,
whatever the frame, yeah, the virus is, yeah, the flavor of the month. Yes, yeah. Indeed. Yeah.
And if that happens, I'll send a ChatGPT question and answer game, and it'll be all fine.
Indeed, indeed.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy your coffee break, and see you soon. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.